Some geopolitics now. Vladimir Putin is on the move. He's making a rare foreign trip amid the war in Ukraine. And where is he going? Well, two countries, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. The trip is expected to begin tomorrow. He will first travel to the UAE and then to Saudi Arabia. Now, why is this trip important? Well, like I said, it's a rare one. Putin has visited 9 countries since the war in Ukraine began. 9 countries, 7 of them are former Soviet states. The exceptions are China and Iran. But now Vladimir Putin is venturing further. He's traveling to key allies of the United States, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. What does that mean? Perhaps he's feeling more confident, which brings us to the agenda of this trip. What unites Russia, Saudi Arabia and the UAE? What's the common factor? Oil. All 3 are part of the group called OPEC+. It's a cartel of oil-producing countries. Last week, they announced a major decision. They agreed to voluntarily cut their oil output. By how much? Around 2.2 million barrels per day. That's the cut that they announced, 2.2 million barrels per day. The idea here is to prop up oil prices. In late September, Brent crude was trading at around $94 per barrel. By mid-November, it had fallen to $77. OPEC Plus wants to change that. And what better way than cutting output? It's simple economics. If you reduce output, prices will go up. But has that happened? Well, not yet. The markets are not convinced by the oil cuts. In fact, Brent crude slipped 2% after the cuts were announced. And the reason is quite simple. The economic mood is gloomy. No one is expecting a massive demand for oil, which is why Putin is traveling to the Gulf. He needs to chalk out a strategy that will keep oil money flowing into the treasury. And the Kremlin has confirmed this. They say oil is very much on the agenda. Listen in.
These discussions are held within the OPEC Plus format. But of course, cooperation in this area is always on the agenda. The fact is there are certain processes of inertia in the oil market. It is very big and heavy. Therefore, sometimes the effect is delayed. Therefore, coordination will continue.
In Saudi Arabia, Putin will hold talks with MBS. That's Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Both men have a good working relationship, Putin and MBS. It dates back to late 2016. Oil prices were in the dumps then. OPEC alone was unable to make a difference. So other oil states came together to form what we call OPEC+. MBS and Putin were key to those talks. And this time, they'll be hoping for some of that magic. Because 2024 does not look good for oil states. Economic growth is projected to be sluggish. China's growth is not picking up, so oil demand will likely be low. And that's bad news for countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia. Just look at these numbers. Oil and gas makes up 28% of Russia's revenue. In Saudi Arabia, oil makes up 40% of the GDP. Hence the worry. If oil collapses, all these countries suffer. Putin and MBS will be keen to avoid that. Having said that, it's not just about oil. There is politics involved as well. Putin is traveling to West Asia at a very crucial time, at a time of crisis. Israel has resumed its offensive on Gaza. Most Arab nations are losing patience with the US. They feel President Joe Biden is not doing enough, that he is only supporting Israel and not Palestine. So the atmosphere is perfect. Putin can nudge Gulf states away from the United States. They may not abandon Washington, but they can be neutral states. In fact, in many ways, they already are. Russians are now parking their money in the UAE. They can't buy assets in the US or in Europe, so they're shifting to the Gulf. Just consider real estate. Russians were the leading buyers of UAE properties in 2022. Some realtors reported a 125% rise. Russian companies are also shifting base, like Lukoil. It's the second biggest energy company in Russia. Last year, it moved its trading operations outside Europe, from Switzerland to Dubai. So the Gulf has become a new safe haven for Russians, for oligarchs, for Russian firms, even for Vladimir Putin. Somewhere he can travel and hold talks without fear. Of course, it's a two-way street. The Gulf states are keen to welcome wealthy visitors. They bring in money for a post-oil future. But will this alliance of convenience translate into something strategic, something long-term? Tomorrow's meetings could give us some clues.